Hello everybody, the Lawn Gnome is here, and this is Up From the Underground Presents Football. With me as always are my two fantastic panelists. The one to my right, his boots are made for walking, and apparently his shoes are made for eating, the great Captain Shenanigans.
Hey guys, what's up?
And of course, when it comes to the game of password, if you want him on your team, just remember the secret word is Blard. Ladies and gentlemen, the notorious Mr. Beagle.
That's old.
How are we doing today, gentlemen?
Quite excellent. What a wild week.
The best way that can describe week one is just one word. Wow? As far as I'm concerned, this is pretty much what we saw. We saw the predictable, the unpredictable, and of course the Seahawks just being the Seahawks. Ugh. So before we get into all of that wonderful stuff, we definitely need to start off with a very important tribute, as well as a topic of conversation. Of course, everybody, if you do watch football, you do know about the passing of the great Art Modell, someone who really brought football to the true media glory that it is through Monday Night Football and the networks.
And Baltimore.
That's what I really wanted to bring to everybody's attention in regards to Art Modell. I call it the Browns conundrum. Gentlemen, Art Modell was pretty much the guy that, at one point in time, had a Browns team that was pretty much a true threat in the NFL, at least before the merger. If you don't know who Jim Brown is, then you better get the heck out of here. But the question that I have here is, here's one of those legendary teams that has been around for years, unfortunately saw a dark age when it didn't even exist and then came back. But around that time frame, meaning the late 90s all the way to now, the Browns have really become a strange enigma in football. And the reason why I call it an enigma is because here's a team that's just not winning. They always seem to get the cheap end of the stick, and my question that I want to throw to you both is, what do you think is going to happen with a team like the Cleveland Browns?
As far as what? As far as their future?
As far as their future, do you even think that this team is going to stick around just because of what's happening with this team ever since they came back?
Yes, and here's why. They're not... I mean, they've made the playoffs a few times since they've been back. I mean, they still are not as bad as Buffalo in terms of their playoff drought. I think Buffalo's going on, like 16 years now?
Since Cowboys, Bills.
Cleveland's made the playoffs, I think they made it in 2000 and then again in 2002.
About 3 times since they came back.
Yeah. And this is the most storied franchise. I mean, think about the Yankees in the 80s and early 90s. Arguably one of the worst teams in baseball. You know, even with Donnie Baseball there, they still just could not do anything in the American League East. And the Browns are the same thing. They're in a division that has 3 playoff contenders. They've been in rebuilding mode for the past few years. The problem is they can't keep their players healthy. It's not the Browns' fault. It's just the way things go. It's nobody's fault, and it just happens. So, to answer your question, they're going to stay in Cleveland.
I hope
they're going to stay at the Browns. They're not going to LA, that's for sure. They still have a huge fan base, and despite the fact that I remember watching that game, that first game back, in 1999, I remember that game. They were hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Steelers beat them 38-0.
Nice.
And I said right there, this is going to be a painful beginning. And you know what? It was a beginning. It was the beginning of a new franchise. It was technically an expansion team. So while the Browns may have been, may go back as old as football itself, this particular incarnation just doesn't have a track record to back it yet, and doesn't have the name to go with it. Now when people say Browns, they think of the Cleveland Poops. So...
Well, the logo doesn't help.
What logo?
It's just a brown.
Yeah, exactly. What logo?
It's a brown oval.
They're going to stay where they are. They're in rebuilding mode. They got a lot of rookies on that team. They're still one of the better defensive teams in the league. I think they're ranked number 6 right now. But they're in a division where it's very tough to win. They have to wait until the Pittsburgh Steelers get older, until the Ravens get older.
Hey, it might be soon.
The Bengals are young, so they're going to be a threat for a while. But it might be very soon. The Ravens and the Steelers are pretty old.
It seems like the AFC North can go topsy-turvy within the next, 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you've got a group of fans that give the stadium of their team its own nickname, like the Black Hole, they've got the Dog Pound, that just shows you how loyal their fans truly are. And quite frankly, I have always said, way back when I actually started following football in the late 90s, you can't have the NFL without the Browns. You got to have them.
See, the thing is, I think the Browns are going to stay in Cleveland and remain the Browns because of their fan base. Their fan base are rabid. They attend every game and they sell out every game. You'd have to be completely stupid to run away from that. Look what happened when the original Browns moved to Baltimore. Cleveland didn't have a team, and because of the fan base, they got a team back. Kind of like the Winnipeg Jets in the NHL.
Right.
And that's why LA's not getting a team, because LA people are not passionate about their sports.
They have no fans. They have no fans that attend games.
Yeah, that is true.
If you're in LA, you go to a Dodgers game, you arrive at the bottom of the second and you leave at the top of the eighth.
In regards to fans, we gotta now talk about, as us being fans, that first week. And I want to just really talk about that first game of the season. First of all, Mr. Beagle, props to you on picking the Cowboys.
Congratulations.
I definitely was impressed with Tony Romo. Someone had been watching his Glengarry Glen Ross. ABC always be closing. Yeah, he played a great game.
Romo is much better quarterback than people give him credit for. And yes, he has periods of indecision where he makes some mistakes. Case in point, last year against the Lions. Mm-hmm. He had too many weapons and he didn't know what to do with them. He has the same amount of weapons this year, but he has another year under his belt. He's already a grizzled veteran, and he's only 28. He's got tons of experience. He's got playoff experience. He's got experience with veteran wideouts. He has experience with rookie wideouts. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately for him, DeMarco Murray got hurt in that game, so he may not be there in week 2, and that's a huge loss for him because then there's more pressure on him. But he's got a great offensive line, and with Rob Ryan calling the defensive shots, he's got a really good defense to back him up. He is a good quarterback. I would put him top 10 in the league, quite honestly. Probably number 10, but definitely top 10.
For right now, yeah, he is one of the top 10 quarterbacks. I'm always fond of saying about Tony Romo that he's the Alex Rodriguez of football, where he does great during the regular season, but in the stretch and in the clutch, he's just not. He's not. He only has one playoff victory in how many years? But, he'll do the same as he always does during the season and be Tony Romo, which is damn good enough.
I'm not going to say that the Giants played a bad game. I will say that Eli Manning looked great.
Eli Manning looked fine.
There were flaws.
It was the rest of his offense.
There were flaws there, but as far as Eli Manning, because, of course, what do people always do when a team loses? They always want to try and put the blame on the quarterback. There's many other people to blame for that Giants loss, but I didn't see anything wrong with Eli Manning. I just feel that the Cowboys were the better team.
There's nothing wrong with Manning. There was a problem with the defense. Yeah. The Giants are putting out rookie corners.
The defense gave up too many yards and too many points. Mm-hmm. Enough said. That's
defense gave up too many big plays.
Their secondary's got a lot of holes in there. That's the problem. That's their big problem.
Their front is fine. They can stop the rush, but when it comes to passing, and especially now since this is such a passer's league, it's important to have the corners. It's important to have a backfield.
Didn't the Cowboys in that game have a 1st and 30?
Yes.
And on that play, they scored a touchdown.
Yep.
What I liked so much about that game was the fact that they didn't even have to get their kicker out on the field for a field goal. Romo got the passes in, got the guys to the end zone, and did what he had to do. Being the first game of the football season, of course, we have to go back to our favorite topic, Zebragate.
Oh,
let's talk about the performance of that first game, as well as the rest of week 1 with the refs. Let me throw my thoughts out here, because I know that you guys are going to go bat crap crazy over this. But as far as I can say, there were some games that looked okay, and then there were some games that looked really bad. Case in point, the Green Bay San Fran game. I don't think I ever saw any refs like that being so flag happy. Props to Shannon Easton for breaking the glass ceiling for women in reffing of NFL.
There you go. We should see more of them like that.
Yeah, and I actually had been told by many people who watched a lot of the games that was actually one of the best ref games in the Week 1 series.
Because she's been reffing NCAA, so she knows what she's doing. Just because she's a woman, it doesn't mean she can't handle the pressure, or, if you have like a 300-pound linebacker screaming at you, oh, why was that a penalty? She can handle it.
And she had one of the more challenging games.
Yeah.
She had the Detroit matchup.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Again, with the 300-pound linebackers.
Yeah. All right, so we have to pause for station identification. Captain Shenanigans, where can we find Up From the Underground Presents Football on YouTube?
Ladies and gentlemen, faithful viewers, you can always find us on the YouTube channel called Football Goulash.
Leave your comments, subscribe, we'd love to see them. Mr. Beagle, your thoughts on the replacement refs in Week 1?
All right, the refs overall were good. I didn't see anything too glaring. The spotting wasn't very accurate in the Jets game. You had the Seattle game with the extra timeout, which has happened before. And to be quite honest, that wasn't the ref's fault. It was the clock operator's fault. Yeah. I mean, they're more to blame for mistakes than the refs are. The way it works in the modern world is if they do a good job, then we'll be like, okay, they're doing a good job. If they don't do a good job, we're going to throw arms in the air, scream, Hail Mary, something's got to be done. But they didn't do that bad of a job. I will say that the referee in the Broncos-Steelers game was about 90 years old. They are doing the NCAA hand gestures, which are slightly different than the NFL hand gestures. Some of the referees aren't giving explanations, which they don't have to give. They could just say,
it's useful, though.
It's useful for the fans,
and we're kind of used to it at this point.
Yeah, but they're not obligated to give explanations. They're just obligated to make the call and say whether or not it was upheld on a replay or something. I think that they did a good job, and we're going to be with them for at least the next few weeks, quite honestly, because I don't see any budging on either side. Roger Goodell is in a power position right now because these replacement refs are doing fairly well. He can be sitting in his office, be like, well, we don't need this. We don't need you guys to play the games. When he's talking about the regular refs, we don't need you guys. You look out there, everything's going fine. There were a couple of head hits this week, including one on Darrelle Revis, which was kind of friendly fire. But
yeah, Bart Scott gave him an accidental boot to the head, unfortunately.
And they handled it correctly. They got him off the field. They got him checked out, and the refs are on very, very strict concussion watch, and they're doing good. I don't see any reason to not keep sending them out there.
You know what? I can't really complain about them either. I mean, usually in any given week when they have NFL, you'll get one or two games where you'll find a bad call. That's normal. This week there was only 3 bad calls in all the games that I can think of off the top of my head.
Right.
That had a outcome on the play. But otherwise, I can't really find too much to complain about these refs versus the old official refs.
Well, I appreciate that you, Mr. Beagle, threw out the whole concept of Goodell and his thoughts on this, but as far as I'm concerned, sure, Week 1 they did pretty decently. But would you both agree that it's all just a matter of time before one of them just decides to screw up and everyone throws a hissy fit?
What he did was he drew up a 5-week schedule of the replacement refs of who's going where.
Gotcha.
And as far as what you just said about one of the replacement refs totally screwing it up, wouldn't we, the fans and the players, do this exact same thing if it was a regular salaried ref screwing something up?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you see, the only reason why I'm saying that is because, this is going to... Again, the media loves a field day of craziness and controversy, and they're going to say, oh, it's because they're replacement refs, they don't know what they're doing, let's get the real refs back, and the whole shebang's going to start up again.
And what the NFLPA should be doing is backing the replacement refs. They have verbally backed the regular refs, but only verbally. If the replacement refs do a good job for the first few weeks, and then one of them screws up, what the NFLPA should do is get behind the replacement refs and say these guys are working their hardest to do something that they're not familiar to do. And, we as fans should come out against the media if the media takes that stance and say, this is like taking a nurse and throwing her into OR.
That's horrifying.
It's taking someone completely out of position and throwing him into a situation, and they're doing it. Like last year, T.J. Yates.
Right.
The third-string quarterback for Houston.
Yep.
He didn't expect to play at all that season, yet he went out there as a starting quarterback, and he actually did a good job.
Right.
Well, after Schaub and Leinart got injured on the first play in the first game he was in. So what did T.J. Yates have to do? He had to ball up and say, okay, this is my job, and this is what I'm going to do.
Big props to Kubiak on that one.
Yeah. And this is exactly what the replacement refs are going through right now.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess the next thing that we really need to bring up, and as far as news goes, is what I like to call vilification for Vilma.
How did I know that was coming?
Boy.
Is it that obvious? Bountygate.
Ugh.
The players have been cleared.
For now.
What do you guys feel about that? And what are your thoughts on the Saints now? Because some people are predicting them to do very well with or without Sean Payton and the players like Vilma, etc. But then some people think that they're just going to hit rock bottom even though they've got Drew Brees. I see you signaling me, Captain.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
See, Sean Payton has not been reinstated. He still has his season-long ban. It's Vilma, who's still on the Saints, who, I guess, gets the most vilification out of all of them. Even though, actually, I just read today, he's on the PUP list.
Correct.
Now, so he's not even going to be able to do anything for the next 2-3 weeks.
Well, I mean, the only reason is that I bring the Saints into this discussion is because you take a look at how they played against the Washington Redskins of all teams. Uh-oh.
Okay. 3 points here. One, this will not affect the Saints in any way.
Okay.
Because they're always going to have that stigma on their head that this happened to our guys, and let's make sure that if we're going to win, let's make sure we win clean. So there's always going to be that little thing above their heads, and I think that's going to distract them. 2, the Saints didn't lose the game. The Redskins won it. The Redskins, I mean, they're coached by Mike Shanahan, who for the past couple of years we all thought maybe was losing a few marbles.
Still convinced
Shanahan proved he can take people from all walks of life, bring them together, and put up a phenomenal performance, offensively and defensively. That was the best team effort I've seen from the Redskins in years. And 3, the fact that the ban was lifted on a few players. Roger Goodell is in a power position with the refs. He just lost lots of clout as far as controlling sanctions to players in the NFL. This now proves that he cannot punish players for non-salary related violations. So right there, a third of his authority is out the window and in the hands of a judge. Mm-hmm. And that is demoralizing to him, it's demoralizing to the NFL, and it's just going to spell disaster for future player infractions that are going to have to come down to either him or a judge, and more often people are going to scream, well, you were overruled on this, I'm going to go to a judge, and it might get overruled again.
The thing is that, especially with the top 3 players who are banned and now reinstated, it's not that they're going to make a difference on their respective teams. It makes a difference off the field and in the offices of the NFL. Because for the longest time, ever since Roger Goodell first became head commissioner of the league, he was judge, jury, and executioner on all things player-related.
Right.
And especially with this, he's lost a lot of respect. That's what I feel like. He's lost a lot of respect from the players because now he doesn't seem as the scary godfather-like figure anymore.
I feel he's got like one of the most stressful jobs as being the NFL commissioner because he had to deal with the lockout and now this guy's just having a bad week. As far as I'm concerned, I agree with you both. I feel that this is not going to affect the Saints. I feel that the Saints are just going to do what they are supposed to do. And again, when you got Drew Brees, as I said a few weeks back, you can't have a better leader on your team that can at least, if anything, at least a respectable season.
I'll say this. If Peyton Manning can coach the Colts, okay, and then the next season when they don't have him do horribly, I think the Saints will be fine with Drew Brees as, acting as coach.
Before we go into some of the highlights that we all saw in Week 1, let's talk about our tally with our picks. You guys ready for an interesting surprise? It's a 3-way tie. We all went 8-8. And
I can put my belt away.
And you don't bring the belt out until the end of the season, dude.
Oh, I'm going to bring the belt out as long as
winner.
If I'm ahead, I'm bringing the belt out.
Very well.
Ouch.
And the burgundy suit?
I might go chartreuse for the third week.
I have to find my mustard yellow shirt first.
So, as far as Week 1 goes, now that we're all tied up, first of all, the 3 games that we all picked. You picked the Giants-Cowboys, you picked the Kansas City Falcons game, and I picked the Titans-Patriots game. Were you guys happy with what you saw?
No.
I have to say I was, because Tom Brady got his nose broken, so vilification for me.
And Jake Locker got hurt.
Yeah, that was one of the other reasons why I was very interested in how that game ended up, and I don't know what that's going to say about the Titans for the rest of the season.
Hasselbeck.
For all of our picks, I don't think they were as exciting as we expected them to be.
Well, my game was exciting on the Atlanta side.
On the Atlanta, yeah. If you're a fan of one team and not the other, then yeah, definitely.
You did, Mr. Beagle. You got the toilet bowl right on the money. The Steelers-Broncos game, even though I was the only one that actually picked Denver to win, I'm sorry. I said this many times over the past 2 years. Even he can come out with 6 neck surgeries, a robotic arm, and a broken toe, Peyton Manning is still the best quarterback in football, and he pretty much showed it.
He ran the no huddle to perfection.
Damn, I wish
that
I could
wasn't
do that.
Fox.
No,
that was
Peyton
Manning.
But the game, I was able to literally take a shower, get my gym bag packed, make myself a sandwich, and come back and watch the game and know exactly where I was. That was without a doubt one of the most boring games I ever watched.
Yeah, it's the boring old football where nothing really happens. No exciting huge plays. It was just a lot of touchdowns on both sides. That's all.
Watching the Steelers defense makes me pretty hopeful for the Jets game this week.
Then you know what? Let's start it up, everybody. We're going to start with our Week 2 picks.
Let's do it.
We're going to start off with the Thursday night game. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a doozy. Chicago versus Green Bay. After the performance that Green Bay had against San Francisco, I'm going to have to say that the Bears are my team to win this week.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. Green Bay has the offense. Green Bay can score the points, but their defense is just not that good, especially against a stacked and loaded Chicago Bears offense. It's going to be a shootout, ladies and gentlemen.
It will be a shootout, and I actually think this game will go to overtime. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Green Bay last week went up against arguably the best team in the NFL in San Francisco. And they put up a good fight. But Chicago is just going to be too much for them. Their defense is a little old, and their offensive line still has a few questions. But Cutler, Marshall, Hester, Forte, Bush, it's going to be a bruising game.
As far as San Francisco, I still remember you saying that Green Bay was going to run all over them. Big props to Randy Moss.
Randy Moss with the first touchdown of that game.
The thing is that Green Bay really didn't run. That was the thing.
They're a very pass-happy offense.
Yeah, but, they really showed a lot of vulnerability.
They did, especially on the defensive side.
That's 3 Chicagos across the board there.
The problem with Week 1 predictions is that you only see what's on paper and preseason. None of that is accurate.
That's what makes it exciting.
That's what makes it good.
So Week 1, I expect it to go like 8-8. Week 2, we get a much better idea.
Week 2, it's going to be a lot closer.
So let's go to the second game on the board here. New York Jets versus Pittsburgh Steelers. Shenanigans?
As a hometown fan, I want to say the Jets. That'd be my automatic response because I just hate Pittsburgh that much. Now we're going to go into the unbiased mode. And I'm still going to say the Jets. They showed a lot of promise last week. And yes, you can naysay and about the Bills. You know, they were a horrible, weak team. And that the Jets just completely steamrolled them. Yes, that's true. But is Pittsburgh's defense really up to par? I didn't see them do anything magnificent in the Denver game. So I'm giving it to New York.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm picking the Jets as well. Troy Polamalu last week was playing 15, 20 yards off the line against Peyton Manning. This is a guy who makes his living as a free safety pass rushing, and he wasn't doing it. Now, he probably won't do that against Mark Sanchez, but just something in the back of my mind thinks that Sanchez has enough weapons and enough confidence now to throw to Polamalu and trust that his receivers will get it. I'm picking the Jets.
Nice.
Gentlemen, it's the holy trifecta here.
Ooh, boy.
The game that I saw, and yes, Captain, I'm going to agree with you right there. We don't know if the Jets truly played that well or if Buffalo was just that terrible. But here's all that I'm going to say.
It was both.
That O-line that the Jets had in that game was the best offensive line that I have seen in a while. And because of the fact that they gave Sanchez that protection, he was able to give me the best performance I have seen. So if the Jets can play that well, or if Pittsburgh can play as well as they played against Denver, either or even both, I think the Jets have the upper hand here. I'm picking the Jets.
You know, the Jets are the only team in the NFL with 3 Pro Bowlers on the offensive line.
I can believe that.
Mangold, Moore, and Ferguson.
On to the next game here, and of course it involves the loser of the Jets game on week 1. The Chiefs versus Buffalo. I'm going to pick Kansas City, with Buffalo now losing Fred Jackson for about 4 to 6 weeks and David Nelson out for the season. I'm sorry, Buffalo, your season is over.
The safe choice is Kansas City. They're, on paper, the better team. And based on Buffalo's play last week, they're god-awful. But on any given Sunday, anything can happen. In theory, KC is going to win.
I agree. Kansas City's going to win.
Okay. The next game is going to be the Cleveland Browns at the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not going to say that the Bengals played a bad game. I'm going to say that Baltimore played a great game. Defensively, but offensively as well. But I'm not saying that Cincinnati is bad. I'm giving this one to Cincinnati.
Cleveland is just not that good. This is Cincinnati's game to roll with.
I'm going to disagree with both of you.
By all means.
I think Whedon and Richardson are going to have a breakout game each, and I think Cleveland is going to stun Cincinnati at Paul Brown Stadium.
That is a bold prediction.
What about Minnesota versus Indianapolis?
It's going to be a blowout, I think. Minnesota is going to dominate Indy. Peterson came back super strong from his injury from last season.
Very true.
Ponder is another year more mature, and he's actually looking very good. And they got a good defense.
I don't think it's going to be as big of a blowout as you exclaimed, but I'm still giving this one to the Vikings.
Then allow me to be the one who goes against you both, because sometimes I don't end up being wrong. The reason why I still have my doubts about Minnesota is because of the fact that I almost got an upset on you both with Jacksonville.
Thank God for overtime.
So if Minnesota could almost lose to Jacksonville to get a victory only in overtime, I have a feeling that Andrew Luck may in fact have a little bit of luck. I'm going to pick the Colts. We're going to break as far as the picks go, and we're going to go into our very first segment with the notorious Mr. Beagle. Comment, like, and subscribe, ladies and gentlemen, to Football Goulash, and give us your picks on the last few matchups that you heard. As of now, it's time for a little get on the boat and get off the goat.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or whatever time you're listening to this. In this week's edition of Get on the Boat or Get off the Goat, we focus on the rookie class that was drafted this April. There were a few outstanding performances this past week, in case you haven't been watching. Everyone knows what a great game RG3 had. 320 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 42 yards. But what about the other rookies? And there were a lot that had good days. Robert Griffin III's teammate, Alfred Morris, stepping in for the often injured Roy Helu, had 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is a guy with a bright future. He reminds me a lot of Jaquiz Rogers, who's on Atlanta, who is the number 3 running back, but Turner's getting older. Snelling's not exactly that great. Rogers might have a good game or two this season. Came in to show what he could do, and he did it. Both RG3 and Morris had these great games in New Orleans, which is a very tough place to win, despite the fact that New Orleans is a little handicapped right now. Now let's go on to my hometown Jets and Stephen Hill. Now this is a guy who was a second-round pick to give Sanchez some more weapons after Holmes, and he had a miserable preseason, dropping passes everywhere. At the start of the Jets game, he dropped another pass, and there was one that went off of his hands, and it was Sanchez's only interception of the day. But then things changed. The young Yellow Jacket then ended up with 89 yards and 2 touchdowns. Go Georgia Tech. He showed good hands, and he had great after-the-catch running ability. Then you got to go to Tampa Bay's Doug Martin, who ran for 95 yards and caught 4 passes for another 23. There's Kobe Fleener, who had 6 receptions for 82 yards. I mean, Indy lost, but, he's one of the few rookie tight ends that's starting. He showed goodness there. There's Ashlon Jeffrey, who had 80 yards with a touchdown for the Bears. And then you got the kicking team. And I know this is one of your favorite places to be, Captain.
Oh, boy.
Blair Walsh, Justin Tucker, and Greg Zerlane were perfect for their teams. They had a combined, I think, 12 field goals and like 15 extra points. All these rookies came out firing, and it should be a pretty good idea that they could be a little dangerous if given the opportunity. Now, as far as my GOAT, we have the other rookies. Things didn't go quite as planned. Let's see. The rookie quarterbacks that are not named RG3, you got Andrew Luck, Tannehill, Wilson, and Whedon, combined for 799 passing yards. That's less than 200 per player. 53 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and 5 fumbles.
Ew.
5! I mean, as my friend Jonathan, fumble!
They all went down together.
For the running backs, and let's be fair, there's really only one starting running back who's a rookie, and that's Trent Richardson, and he only did 44 yards. Let's see, you got Justin Blackmon, Wright, Michael Floyd, Brian Quick, who combined for 61 yards. Combined. Now we shouldn't be too hard on them, right? After all, the rookies. They're not expected to contribute right away. The thing is, though, they are. That's why they were drafted. They are expected to contribute right away. They've had 3 solid months of practice with their team and 4 preseason games to get to the pace of the NFL. Either do what you were signed to do, or get out of the way of the veterans who just haven't been given the chance. And here is my stat of the week. In Week 1, Jay Cutler threw a touchdown pass to Brandon Marshall in a 23-10 win over Indianapolis. The last time that happened was December 7th, 2008, in a 24-17 win over Kansas City, a difference of 1,372 days. Stat of the week, number 2. NFL teams sometimes have a separate name for their cheerleading squad. Some are cool, such as the New York Jets Flight Crew, the Top Cats from Carolina, and the San Francisco Gold Rush, which I think is a cool name.
It's pretty awesome.
I agree.
Some are lame, such as the Cincinnati Bengals.
Boo.
Then there's one that's quite disturbing. The Buffalo Jills. Now, since this is a YouTube show, it's safe to assume that at least one member of our audience may be a little depraved. Picture a typical cheerleader and associate the word Jill with her. What comes to mind? If you don't get it, ask your friends or, who may be a little more internet fluent than you are. I'm the notorious Mr. Beagle, and this was Get on the Boat, Get off the Goat.
Thank you very much, and don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe on everything that you heard.
Especially if you know what Jill means.
Yes, absolutely.
I want to see comments on that.
Yeah, we'd love to see them. Getting back
And
to...
pictures.
Yeah. So getting back to the picks, gentlemen, we're going to go and continue with the Oakland Raiders against Miami. I am going to actually give this one to Oakland, but with a little bit of caution. The reason why I wasn't surprised that they lost to San Diego was because you want my top 10 quarterbacks? Phillip Rivers is there. When you give him the weapons, he's going to execute. The problem with Oakland was, and I think that this could be a serious issue if they keep doing this, they've got to slow down with McFadden. They overuse him way too much. That's the only way that they're going to lose this game and possibly lose their season. They've got to play smart. But I'm still giving Oakland the win over Miami because Miami is just that bad.
I agree that Phillip Rivers is a top 10 quarterback. He's on my fantasy team. I also agree that Oakland will win.
You know what? This one's a lot tougher than people will originally think. I'm still going to give it to Oakland because Miami just didn't convince me last week that they could win.
Moving on to the Arizona Cardinals against the New England Patriots. Tom Brady may have gotten a broken nose, but unfortunately, the Cardinals got a much heavier hit with the loss of Skelton. Even though Kevin Kolb did play a good game at the end to close it out and win against none other than our good old friends, the Sea Chickens, I'm still giving the Patriots the win because, guys, it's the Patriots.
Folks, you'll be happy to know that this is my toilet bowl of the week. It's going to be boring, and it's going to be a complete blowout because the Patriots are going to steamroll those poor Cardinals.
I agree with absolutely nothing you just said.
Oh my goodness, I don't believe it.
This is my upset of the season
Oh,
right here in week 2. Kevin Kolb is on a mission. He has an opportunity, and the Cardinals have the offensive and defensive weapons to put up a good fight against New England. It'll be a good, hard-hitting game. I think New England makes a couple of key mistakes, and Arizona wins it in Foxborough.
As a
You
Jets,
are out of your mind.
but as a Jets fan, I will hope that you are right.
Me too, because I want that belt.
Well, we'll go on to the next game, which is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the New York Giants. That would be me, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Because of the fact that Tampa Bay did something that I did not expect to see. They showed me a defense that was very, very close to what I saw in the 2003 Super Bowl championship Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If these guys are in fact the real deal, mind you, they did play the Panthers. But if they've got a defense as solid as this one, and an offense that can definitely step it up, with a shaky secondary that the Giants have, the Giants may go 0-2. I'm taking the Buccaneers.
I just can't agree with you. The safe bet is to say the Giants, because on paper they're the better team. But taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the Giants right now, I think Eli Manning and his offense are on a mission to prove that last week was a fluke. I just don't think Tampa Bay has the oomph to beat the Giants.
I agree with Captain Shenanigans over there. I think the Giants are going to come back strong, and you got to remember that the Giants always lose a couple of games in the regular season. I mean, last year they went 9-7.
They lost the
Seattle
Seahawks.
I know, they lost the Seahawks.
So it's like
So
they're gonna win. They're gonna win. They're gonna lose some.
They're going to win, they're going to lose, they're going to win, they're going to lose, and I think this is a game where they will win. However, if they do lose mentally, they're done.
It's also because I feel the Buccaneers are on a mission too. To pull themselves out of the primordial ooze that is the bottom of the NFC South and show that they have improved, which they have this past offseason. Did I expect this? No. I thought that Carolina was going to romp. But, hey, if they're as strong as they showed me in week 1, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sticking with it, guys. Now for the game that truly scares me. The Ravens versus the Eagles. I'm sorry, guys. The Ravens don't look great. They look incredible. Offensively and defensively, they're clicking on all cylinders. Joe Flacco looked like, dare I say it, an elite quarterback. He's also in my top 10. He's actually right below the top 5. Michael Vick was very, very shaky against a team like Cleveland. Ravens are going to destroy them and embarrass them on Sunday.
I agree with you. I think Baltimore is going to walk all over them. I think at the end of the game, the Philadelphia Eagles players will be wanting a tube of lube, so it doesn't hurt any much.
It's going to be the trifecta here, folks. Baltimore is not just scary on defense anymore. They're scary on offense also. And the Eagles are going to be the scary birds.
If the Eagles do the same mistakes that they did last week, Baltimore's going to make them pay. Those 4 turnovers from Vic, that's going to turn into 28 points for Baltimore.
That's why the Ravens scare me so much. They are the team that will pour the salt in the open wound and twist the knife at the same time.
Right now, they're my team to beat. Eh?
And now we're going to go to the Saints versus Carolina.
Ugh. This one's a little difficult because
This is my toilet bowl.
this one's difficult. It was a run-up for my toilet bowl. Based on last week, New Orleans looked like they were toothless gummers. They didn't have any bite. They didn't have any bark. They weren't convincing. Was Carolina any more convincing? Not really, in my opinion. This one's a toss-up. Flip a coin. Let's see what happens.
But who gets the victory?
I don't know. Give me a coin. Seriously.
Ladies and gentlemen, just want to let you know, Captain Shenanigans just took out a coin. He's going to flip it right now.
Heads, New Orleans. Tails, Carolina. Okay? Tails, it's Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina's not going to win if they keep rushing for 10 yards a game. I'm picking New Orleans.
I'm actually going to go with you, Mr. Beagle. I'm sorry. Cam Newton, he may be one of the more decent quarterbacks in the game right now, but it's Drew Brees.
It's Drew Brees versus Cam Newton, and
it's going to be very pass happy, let's put it that way.
Oh, yes. If you like the passing game, folks, watch this game.
Yeah, I'm going with the Saints on this one. And we're going to take another break from the picks, and we're going to go to our second segment, Lessons Learned with the great Captain Shenanigans.
Hey, folks. How y'all doing? This is Lessons Learned. It's only week 2, and the only lessons we have learned so far are from week 1. Most of them are very, very convincing, and I actually have, if you've been paying attention, faithful viewers/listeners, I actually have 2 repeat lessons, because obviously these head honchos running the NFL teams have not been paying attention. Shame on you. First lesson learned is, of course, one of my all-time favorites, you don't throw into Revis Island. 2. Electric Boogaloo. Second lesson learned, the other repeat I have. Last year I had mentioned a little something called the NFL can only handle so much Manning in one particular season. And this season, I think it's Peyton's to run with. Last week, we saw Eli Manning give an okay effort on his half. His offense just did not produce for him, though. Peyton Manning's Broncos, on the other hand, really ran with the ball, literally and figuratively. I wouldn't say they crushed the Pittsburgh defense. They made them look very inept. I think this is Peyton Manning's season to shine and prove to all the doubters out there that he can come back from 4 neck surgeries. And even though we're probably all sick and tired of it, he is going to succeed in the league this year. Third lesson learned. Although the rookies, for the most part, didn't do so well last week, don't underestimate them. Please, that is going to be your undoing for week number 2. I think the rookie class this year has a lot to prove, especially the starters. You have guys like Brandon Whedon who did not have such a good day, or you had RG3 who had a great day, and Stephen Hill from the Jets who had a pretty damn good day for a rookie wideout. You know, take your pick. Right now it's half and half on who did good and who did bad. But like I said, don't underestimate them, because they will surprise you and they will want to live up to not only their paychecks but to their reputation on these teams as starters. And for the fourth lesson learned is, again, I cannot stress this any further, but this is a quarterback's league. Without a quarterback doing well for your team, you're going to lose, no matter how good your defense is, and a lot of teams proved that last week. You know, Eli Manning is a good quarterback. RG3 is a good quarterback. But what happened? The Giants lose because of their offense and their defense, and the Redskins won because of their offense and defense. Their respective quarterbacks did what they were supposed to do, and the rest of the team followed suit. You know, the quarterback is the team leader, and I can't stress that more. The quarterback is the team leader. He's probably going to have that C on his chest, and it's there for a reason, because he's there to inspire the rest of everyone. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the shortest segment I've ever done, but we'll be back next week with more.
Well, I just want to throw in a little spoof one for you there as far as lessons learned. Always remember that the goal apparatus can either be your best friend or your worst enemy all in the same day. It was both for San Francisco.
Yeah.
David Akers with that monster 63-yard doinker, and Vernon Davis getting completely rejected by the crossbar, which made me laugh so hard.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, let's get back to the picks, guys. We're going to go with the Houston Texans against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Look, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Houston is the real deal, and there is no way that Jacksonville is going to try and pull off an upset here. So I'm going with the Texans to win this one.
Again, the safe pick is Houston. they're the better team. They're going to win this one.
I'm very, very, very reluctantly picking Houston because Jacksonville showed me something last week, and I don't know what it means, but I think that it means that they're not going to have as bad a season as people think. I'm still picking Houston, but look for Jacksonville to make it a game.
The next game is probably the one that I'm going to be very interested in, and I'm sure you guys will as well. RG3, can he do it again? The Redskins against St. Louis? I'm going to say, heck yeah. I'm going to go with the Redskins for the win.
RG3 is getting very, very lucky by having 2 games in 2 domes the first 2 weeks of the season. I think that will only help him. I think the Redskins will win.
I think the Redskins will win because RG3 really convinced me last week, and that's important. So if the defense can keep up their end of the deal, Washington's going to win this game.
I'm telling you guys right now, the NFC East has officially become the most competitive division after what I just saw on Sunday. Anyway, moving on. The Dallas Cowboys versus the captain's favorite team, the Seattle Seahawks.
Oh boy. Last week, Dallas proved, and not just Dallas, Tony Romo proved that he can lead this Cowboys team. Blech, it's the Sea Chickens. They're not convincing at all. This one's Dallas's game to win.
I'm also going to go with Dallas. Romo is one of my top 10 quarterbacks. Most people wouldn't have him in the top 10, but I do. I think
would.
Given his age, he has a lot more experience than people give him credit for, and he has a lot more command now than he did in years past, and he's a lot more weapons on offense and defense now. He's got a much better offensive line as well.
I'm going to go with the trifecta here and pick the Cowboys, but I'll tell you one thing. If the Sea Chickens do in fact win, then Captain Shenanigans' theory is all true. Now we're going to go to the Tennessee Titans versus the San Diego Chargers. I'm picking the Chargers, guys. The Titans are crippled now. Not saying that Hasselbeck is terrible.
He is.
But Jake Locker was supposed to be, as the captain likes to say, their lone and shining star.
Yep.
Not this time, guys. He's out. It's going to the Chargers. As long as those weapons, and let's just say that Rivers was clutching his chest when he saw Antonio Gates had to leave the field. Luckily, he came back with just a bruised rib. As long as he has his weapons, he's going to win it. This is his season to ruin. Chargers win.
The Chargers lost a lot in the receiver when they lost Vincent Jackson in Tampa Bay. But they gained so much from Robert Meacham. And I think Rivers likes Meacham a hell of a lot better. I think Meacham has a much better work ethic. I think he's a better player overall. Chargers win.
I think the tandem of Rivers and Meacham is better than Rivers and Jackson. And I think they're gonna win this game. It's gonna be Phillip Rivers' game to win, just like the lawn gnome said.
Okay, and on that note, we're going to go to my segment, Hero and Bust. Ready, gentlemen?
Yes.
Hero. I said he would get the highlight reel and not the touchdowns. The captain over here said that he would make his team look less terrible. Not great, not even good. I guess we both have to put our feet in our mouths. Even though this is only week 1, you cannot deny that the hero was Robert Griffin III. He gets the honor of hero this week. Now, this could have been a fluke because it's the only first game of the season. Maybe it was because of the fact that the Saints were not playing at full strength, but he overshadowed Drew Brees, undeniably one of the best in the game and one who could have easily snagged a win. You can't shy away from the fact that this game was one that he had to earn to show that he and the Redskins are the real deal. As far as I'm concerned, beating a powerhouse like New Orleans in their own house, this is what I can say. Let's see that again and you're going places, kid. Honorable mention on the Redskins, by the way, Nick Sundberg, getting his arm broken in the second quarter, yet still manages to stay on the field and finish that game. That's guts, man. That's guts, that's determination. It just shows you how much RG3 has lifted this team.
And he's supposed to be playing for the rest of the season with that. He's going to wrap it up like so many other offensive linemen have done over the years.
And now for my bust. Apparently everybody must be digging the dubstep because the salsa is out of style. You guessed it. Victor Cruz of the New York Giants. Okay, I admit it. I like the guy. I love his story. I think it's inspiring. He proved his worth in a Super Bowl victory, and he got his money. But because of that, the Giants had to let go of Manningham and Jacobs. And what do? You drop the ball. Not once, not even twice, but 3 times. And these were not difficult catches, mind you. These were 3 that Eli Manning planted right in his chest. These were catchable. By the way, Victor, I've seen your commercial too, for Time Warner Cable, how you managed to catch plenty of inanimate objects flawlessly, yet when it counts the most, you let it slip. And you allow Jerry Jones to bathe in the glory of his harsh statements towards your team. For shame, Mr. Cruz. For shame. And that does it for my hero and bust of week 1.
Well said.
And I'm not going to even talk about Travis Goffel, because if he does what he did on Monday night, let's just say he's out of Oakland, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So, we're going to go to the last 2 games of the week, the Sunday night and the Monday night game. San Francisco versus Detroit. That would be Captain Shenanigans, ladies and gentlemen.
Folks, this is my game of the week for one simple reason. This is going to be exciting to watch. You have a very high-powered San Francisco offense and defense versus a very high-powered Detroit offense. Their defense can be a little susceptible, but I think this game is going to be close and it's going to come down to the wire. I'm going to give it to San Francisco.
San Francisco is, in my opinion, the best team in the NFL right now, and Detroit does not have the defense to stop them. It'll be a high-scoring game, but San Francisco will end up on top, especially at home. As long as the power stays on.
This time.
I'm going to have to give it to the 49ers, but I agree with you, Captain. I think it's going to be a close game, but what I know it is going to be, it's going to be a fun game.
Oh, yes.
And I'm picking the 49ers to win it. And that leaves us with the Monday night game. I know exactly what's happening after I announce it. The Denver Broncos versus the Atlanta Falcons.
Ooh.
You all know who that is.
Now, how could this not be your game of the week? You have the high-powered offense of the Atlanta Falcons. Matt Ryan is finally coming into his own in his 5th year. He's finally throwing to a fast target in Julio Jones. They got the best tight end who ever played the game. They got a great running back in Turner, and they've got a good defense and they're well coached. Hosting a revamped and revitalized Denver Broncos and Peyton Manning, who also have a good defense and a very high-powered offense. This is going to be everything a football fan dreams of. This is going to be an absolute explosion of hits, passes, catches, and lots of entertainment value. And that's what it all boils down to, is entertainment value. This will be one of the highest rated Monday night games this century.
You
Now, mind you, that's only been about 12 years.
Yeah.
You hosting? Please tell me you're hosting.
On Monday night? Sure. Just got a brand new LED TV from Panasonic. $600. It's a good value. Get Panasonic.
Took your own horn there, huh?
Shameless self-promotion.
Now, as far as who wins, you just gotta look at the weapons and the matchups. Who's better, Manning or Ryan? Who's better, McGahee or Turner? Who's better, Decker or Jones? Remember, Atlanta also has Roddy White. I'm gonna go with Atlanta because it's their home turf, and while Manning is used to playing on turf, the other guys are not. And I think Atlanta has a few more weapons on offense than Denver does, and just a little more experience on defense. Falcons win.
This one's going to be tough. This was going to be my runner-up for Game of the Week. The Denver Broncos were very, very convincing last week, as were the Atlanta Falcons. I think it's going to come down to who's going to score more points. It's going to come down to who can score more points faster, because both of them have very good offenses that can score the touchdowns, and they don't need to stop midfield to get a field goal. I think it's going to be a shootout of the game, and I think you know what? I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos. They convinced me that much.
I am so glad that I'm not going to be the lone one on this one. I'm sorry. You guys doubted me when I told you that the Denver Broncos were going to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. The best quarterback in the game in the last 15 years is what the Broncos have. And they do have Champ Bailey back, just so you know that, Mr. Beagle.
True.
But as far as I'm concerned, maybe it's because I truly hate the Falcons. Maybe it's because of the fact that even though they're playing in the Georgia Dome, if the Broncos go up by the second quarter, the fans will be gone, and will just be the Bronco fans remaining.
Bronco fans in Atlanta?
No, hey,
happens.
if the terrible towels can show up in Seattle, they can show up anywhere. As far as I'm concerned, I am going to give this to the Broncos just because of the fact that I feel that it's, again, I can't stress this enough, it's Peyton Manning.
Do you know that Matt Ryan has single-digit losses at home in his career? He has less than 10 losses at home.
Do you know that Peyton Manning has been to two Super Bowls and has won one? Meanwhile, the Falcons, while they look so invulnerable and undefeatable, where have they gone since he's shown up? Nowhere.
Oh, they went to a Super Bowl.
That was before.
With Chris Chandler,
They still went to a Super Bowl.
but I'm talking about under Matty
Against
Ice.
the Denver Broncos.
Well, Matt Ryan has some play. Matt Ryan is a lot younger than Peyton Manning by about 12 years.
I will also let you know
Like
this.
30?
I will also throw this out. Matt Ryan is not in my top 10. He's not even in my top. He's not even in my top 15.
Oh, he should be.
He ain't.
Man.
I would like to know what
bold
quarterbacks
statement.
you have above Matt Ryan, and don't name the obvious ones.
I am so glad that you did because I'll give you the 10.
Oh,
I'll
boy.
give you all 10 of them. I'll
Okay.
start with the easy top 3. I'll give you Peyton Manning, I'll give you Tom Brady, and after that I'm going to give you Aaron Rodgers. Then I'm going to give you Drew Brees, and then I'm going to give you Ben Roethlisberger. Where are we? We're at 5, right?
5.
After that I'm going to give you Eli Manning at 6, and then I'm going to give you Jay Cutler, and then I'm going to give you Matt Stafford, and then
You
I
think
am gonna,
Stafford is better than
and-
Ryan?
Okay, then I'm going to give
Stafford
you Flacco
has one.
first, and then I'm going to give you Stafford. We're up to 9, and then I'm going to close it out with Phillip Rivers. That is my 10 top quarterbacks.
Ryan's in there.
That's a bold
Ryan is in there.
statement.
Stafford is not. Stafford's top 15.
He
He had a good rookie season. He's not going to have another one.
He had a great season last year, as far as I'm concerned.
I think Ryan gets into my top 10. If you're going to base it on that, I think he gets into my top 10 because he has a playoff win, while Stafford does not.
One, but still a win.
One, it's still one more than some other quarterbacks we know of. So
Unfortunately, he's still better than Mark Sanchez, but I'm hoping that will change soon.
Does Rivers have a playoff win?
Rivers
Yes,
does
he
have
does.
a playoff.
Yes, he
yeah,
does.
he has like 2. He has
2.
I'm sorry. I don't consider Matt Ryan a good quarterback, at least a top 10 quarterback.
I think you're talking out of that thing you're sitting on.
Well, we'll
the
see.
chair.
We'll see. We've got 2 people rooting for Denver for Monday night. Let's see what happens.
I think Peyton Manning can pull this one out of
This
that.
is where I get to take my belt.
We'll see about that, buddy.
Yeah, especially since you picked the Browns.
Yeah.
On that note, we're going to close week 2, and I thank you both once again, the notorious Mr. Beagle and Captain Shenanigans. Don't forget to check out the show on our channel, Captain Shenanigans. What's it called?
It's called Football Goulash.
Please comment, like, and subscribe. Leave us regular comments, leave us emails, leave us video comments. We're starting to get a little bit of a following, and I'm liking it.
We're all linked up.
So on behalf of the
Millions.
notorious Mr. Beagle and Captain Shenanigans, I am the Lawn Gnome, giving you a question. What are your thoughts on Peyton Manning's return to the NFL, and how do you rate his Week 1 performance?
I would also like to know where you, the listeners, put Matt Ryan in your top whatever.
Yeah.
You don't get a list. You don't give me the whole list.
I wanna
Just
see
give
the
me
whole list.
Just give me a number. Is it 8? Is it 14? Is it 30? Where would you put Matt Ryan?
For me, I'm putting him at 13. I am the Lawn Gnome reminding you that actions speak louder than words.